Good evening and welcome to 48th Sheetalath Conversation Sunday evening show. Sorry, we got a bit late because of some technical glitch here, and I think that you had spent your weekend very well, with blissfully and with great joy. You know, we are at the end of this closing of this winter, and this winter, especially the nights, they are very gruesome and they are very chilling, so they hit very hard. I'm personally very not very fond of the winter, but yet we are at the advent and opening door of the spring, the beautiful spring, the flower blooming spring, and the fragrant spring. I wish that everybody's heart, blooms like the spring fragrance, with the spring fragrance and joy. Uh, this conversation is yet another, and yet another effort, rather an endeavor to, go through this entire periphery, and the crisscross through the entire periphery of, these programs which we have been doing since 47, over 47 milestones, bygone milestones, are the descriptive of this entire program, how we worked on these programs, how they are conceived, and how they are acknowledged, and how they are responded by the audience. Till now, I've gotten a great, overwhelming response. It has been a great joy that we have a wide variety of luminaries visiting our program on every Sunday, and we have been able to somewhere down the line bring this, joy of spring back to our hearts, of the bygone times, of the cliffs, of the water bodies, of the people, of the entire, periphery, the culture, the art, the literature, the legacies, the great personalities. All right. Today we are going to talk about Kashmir. Shaivism. Shaivism, Kashmir Shaivism. It's a very. Before that, I would like to say that, as we know, that Kashmir has always been. It has been the lap of the mighty, gigantic, colossal Indian Himalayas in its northwestern side, and it has been always, time immemorially, been a great, great place for great exponents of art, literature, music, and other music, sciences, spiritual sciences, and other things. But with the time, even they say that in Nilmat Puran, this Lord Krishna coronates Yashomati, and for that matter, she becomes the first empress of the universe, women empress of the universe. Having said so, I would like to say that we are talking about, we have to have this discussion. Today's discussion and conversation will revolve around the Kashmir, the great Kashmir, the Kashmir Shaivism, which has been traditionally, from ancient times, been part of our lives, all the Kashmiris. And this Kashmir Shaivism, as we know, through its thought process, through the practice, through the philosophy, it has been propagated all along. But it has been propounded in classical age of Kashmir, especially from 19th century till 12th century, by the great exponents, great geniuses of those times. And it has, like Vasugupta, he wrote the Shiv Sutra, and then we had this. Bhattakalata, who wrote the, Sampan Karika, and then we had, these personalities like Somananda, and he started this recognition theory of Pratibhigya, and then we had the Utpal Deva, who read Ishwar Pratibhigya Karika, and then the genius, the maestro, the great maestro of Kashmiri, Abhinav Gupta, who was a polymath, a multifaceted personality with divine intelligence and memory. And he was a commentator, he was a statistician, he was a literature, he was a dramatist, he was a painter, he was a musician. What he was not, and he wrote around this Tantra Loka, around 5,800, shlokas in that. So that's a history. No, he's a very, very well recognized personality. His works goes here and there. But somewhere down the line, we have been, we have all along our lives seen these, heard about these great personalities, but we don't know much about, to be very honest. Deeply, nobody studies them. We'll come to that chapter very late after we talk to our guest. I have been heard. I have heard the great maestro, the last maestro of Kashmir Shav Parampara, Drak Parampara, that is Lakshmanju, Swami Lakshmanju. Lakshmanju, Swami Lakshmanju, once while giving the origination of Kashmir Shaivism, had said that in the present cycle, the Yuga cycle, we have a Yuga cycles of, we have the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, then Dwapar Yuga, and then the Kal Yuga. In the present cycle of Kal Yuga, present cycle and the Kal Yuga segment, it is said that at the beginning of Kali segment, there was no Shiva consciousness. Nobody knew about this great spiritual consciousness, the higher consciousness of Shiva. Nobody knew about it. So what happened that Shiva is an infinite intelligence and that can manifest into innumerable ways. It can shrink, it can expand. So Lord Shiva, they say that as per this Lakshmanju, he was he took a birth. He descended on Mount Kailash, and then he summoned Rishi Durvasa and told him, instructed him, and bestowed him with the powers of Shaivism, and told him to propagate Shaivism, but select the personalities, the right personalities, and then propagate it. And then he eloped into the ether. But Rishi Durvasa was astonished after meditation, because they were the great people. They were very nearing to the light. They were very purer and elevated personalities. So he gave a glance during his meditation. He couldn't find anyone around who was eligible to do this job. So then they are also bestowed with the great technique in those days that was known as creating this Mansik Putra, mind son. So then he was left to that option, and he created Mansik Putra. Three Mansik Putra he created. One was Triambakeshwar, other was the second was I have forgotten his name, and third one was Srinatha, Triambaknatha, Amandarnatha, and Srinatha. And to Srinatha, he gave him responsibility of spreading, monistic and dualistic the Shaivism. And to the second one, he gave the responsibility of dualistic Shaivism to Triambakeshwar ya Triambakanatham. He gave the responsibility of spreading this, non-dualistic Shaivism, which is known as Trikashastra. And then he was also bestowed with the capacity of creating Manasputra. He created Manasputra, he gave it a daughter, first of all. Women had a great respect in Kashmir society, and Kashmir Shaivism gives them in a very, very higher pedestal. And then he brought a son, that was also a Mansik Putra, and this pratha, this tradition, moved on and on from generations to generations. Then finally, it reached to a personality who was not able to create a Mansik Putra. He lost that capacity to do a Mansik Putra. So that is how it was. And finally, what happened? He saw a dream, and in dream he found a woman. It was probably a signal to marry that woman, whatever the reasons. And he married that woman, and then their son came, Sangmaditya. Sangmaditya finally went to Kashmir. He married there, and he had a son. And then this tradition of son to father to son, passing on this knowledge and wisdom from father to son began, and it ultimately rested till Shambunatha came. And Shambunatha, from Shambunatha onward, his disciple was Utpal Deva. It started from master to disciple. Master to disciple. This process started from master to disciple. Guru Shishya Parampara, you can say. So that is how it worked. And last, probably, where the Mankak, Swami Mankak was the third last, and the Swami Ramji was the second last, and Swami Lakshmanji was the final master of this tradition. So to cut the story short, let the researchers have a field day to just unravel all these mysteries. Today we are privileged to have with us one of the wonderful personalities, a great scholar of Shaivism, and an eminent educationist, poet, a literature author, and literary critic, Professor Meem Hai Zaffar. It is slightly difficult for me to pronounce, but I still pronounce it Professor Meem Hai Zaffar Sir. He is a very well known personalities. I mean, he has been the yeah, director of Center of Kashmir Studies in Kashmir University, and then he has also remained as a visiting professor to Jawaharlal Nehru University, and he has gone to some as a scholar to some university, some great university. I forgot his name. It was something like the uh, Masata University in Italy, and he has written in innumerable articles, and he is a widely traveled, widely awarded personality, and he has written in probably very prestigious journals and articles of national and international repute. So it's a great pleasure to have him on the show. So let us welcome Professor Meem. Hi, Zaffar Saab, into the show. Professor Saab, you are welcome into the show
N-
of Shitalat Conversations 48th chapter.
Namaskar, namaskar, namaskar. I am extremely thankful. I feel honored.
Thank you.
I am thankful not only to you, but also to others at the Shitalnath Conversations studio, and also to Mr. Avatar Mota, who recommended my name for this interaction. So, before I say something, but I would like to submit that I am not a great scholar. I am just a student. I have been studying Kashmir philosophy for the last almost for the last 30 years. I have been involved with this. And unfortunately, this consciousness did not dawn earlier. So I might
Okay.
have been able to do more then. But it was in 80s that I realized that these are my roots, and I should study this kind of thing. I should try to know this kind of thing. I should try to live what our ancestors have given for. I was amazed when I discovered our rich past, and I felt greatly in love with this past. So that is the crux of my engagement with this past. So I am not a rishi, I am not a Sophie, I am not a mystic. Definitely, I am a student, I am a Vidyarthi, I am a learner. So I can share my learning with other people with the expectation that they may lead me, they may help me in knowing better, in doing better. Definitely, there would be people in our audience and elsewhere also who are more knowledgeable about this school of philosophy, and if I commit any mistakes or blunders, I request them to guide me in the proper way and not be very angry with me. So, anger does not suit learned people. So, that is my request. And the second thing is that I am born at a certain place, certain time. So, my perspective will be colored by my space and time. So, these are
Right.
two things I would like to submit.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It is so it's your magnanimity and your humility. Certainly, it's again, in fact, contagious. I mean, people will definitely like this. The higher you go, they say, the cooler it is. Pashminization and army asan. This I have heard from my mother, and we all our Kashmiri mothers tell us like that. So today I felt that I am in front of a great personality who has not a ratibar of this small iota of that ego that he's learned. But that is how it is, and but learning is an endless process. True, you said,
Of
Professor.
course.
I remember that Kurosawa. I said to you the other day, the Kurosawa, the great Japanese filmmaker, who at the end who was told once that now you have learned so much, what is at the end. He said that I was just coming down a valley. I reached down a valley, and when I reached to the top, I crossed the valley and then went away on the other hill on the other side. And when I reached on the top of the hill, I saw valleys and valleys and valleys and valleys.
Mm.
So this is an infinite existence, but we are caught between time and space. God has
Yeah, of
designed it
course,
like that. Otherwise,
of
we would
course.
go, insane, because the
Yeah, of
universe
course,
is
of
so vast and so
course, of
abstract.
course, of course.
So, but sir, certainly it's our privilege. As per the structure of this program, we are always it's a basically anecdotal program, and we take people to the bygone times, the civilization, the shades of civilization, the colors of civilizations, as I said in my introduction, literature, people, bonhomie, life around, and social culture, social ecology. So, in our first segment, we always tell the luminaries, the visitor personalities to just go back to their childhood and tell us something about that. So, as per the practice in vogue, I would request you to have a panoramic view of your childhood and let us ramble or amble around those lanes with you, the home you lived in, the college you studied, the people and the school and the ecology, social ecology, and also the nature's ecology, life around, good things and bad things in an anecdotal forms, as you wish to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There's not much to say, but since you insist, I was born in a village that is situated on the 19th kilometer on the road from Srinagar to Baramulla. Its name is Burl Heron.
Burl Heron.
So my schooling was in a local school, first in a primary school, then in a secondary school. And after schooling, I went to SP College for my graduation. In SP College, I came into contact with people who had literary tastes, and there was a literary society there. And I also became a member of the society, and then I became the organizer of the society. And we
Great.
used to have fortnightly meetings of this meeting where the young students and some teachers would present their creations, and then they would be discussed. And actually, Professor Ghulam Nabi Firak and Professor Mahideen Hajni, they
Mahidin
were
Hajin.
very they were very instrumental in running this society. And there were other teachers also, but these two people, I remember it was their effort that made it possible for us to conduct those meetings, and in a very meaningful way. After my graduation, because our financial condition was not good at home, so I could
Right.
not pursue my studies for 2 3 years, because I
Oh,
wanted to go to do my masters in philosophy, and there was no philosophy department in University of Kashmir, and
oh,
still there is no department of philosophy in University of Kashmir.
is it so?
Yes, yes, yes. Still there is not. You see, there is somebody told me somewhere that, oh, it's not the case that there is not a department of philosophy there. There can't be a department of philosophy there. So that was in the lighter vein. So, but then after 3 years, somehow I managed it to go to AMU, and there I did my master's degree in philosophy in 75.
Oh, 75.
And in 76, I got a job as a lecturer in a college, Women's College, Jammu, Gandhinagar.
Are.
So I taught in the college for 4 years, and then I was transferred to in 80, 1980, I was transferred to Srinagar Women's College again. Fortunately, I got a fellowship after 2 3 months. In March, I joined the college. In May, I got the fellowship, and I went to Rajasthan University, Jaipur, where I met Professor Daya Krishna, who is one of the most bright contemporary philosophers of India. He is no more now, and
Okay.
that changed my life. And I studied with him for 4 years. I was so lost that I could only complete my MPhil. I did a lot of studies there. They
Okay.
used to teach us Sanskrit also in the department. I helped so many people to complete their PhDs, but I could not complete my own PhD. But this was a transformation. So when I came back in 84, I was a transformed person. In a way, I was a little bit unfit in the milieu from which I had gone, to which I belonged. When I came back, I found myself a little bit unfit. With a friend of mine, whose name was Iqbal Fahim, in 85 we started a journal.
Okay.
It was called Wad. argument.
Argument.
It was a literary and a knowledge journal, a critical journal. So our market was coffee house. We used to be in the coffee house, and there we would sell the copies of the journal.
Okay.
And there we had occasion to meet different people coming from different fields. Some engineers also helped us, although they had nothing to do with literature and philosophy and all the things that we were concerned about. This was a cultural critique. Vad was not simply a literary journal. It was
Okay.
totally a new perspective on Kashmir civilization, on Kashmir society. So we earned a lot of animosity in the literary circles.
Change
And
is
for
always
that, and
difficult.
for that we are still paying. I am still paying for that. So during this time, I also came very close to Ghulam Rasul Santosh.
Ha ha ha. Kya
He
personality.
used to visit during summer. He would stay there in Kashmir for a couple of months, and he would daily come to coffee house, and we would sit and we will talk. And he was very fond of me, and people like me, not only me, and people like me. And one day he told us, myself and my friend Iqbal, he said, "Today is the birthday of Vitista." So I said, "What are we going to do?" He said, "Our ancestors used to float lamps in the river. So if you are ready, we can float lamps in the evening in the river." So we said, "Okay, it's all right." So it was after 2 days. The event was after 2 days. After 2 days, when we went there, so when coffee house closed, then we had the plan to do this kind of activity. So all his friends left. He had so many friends, especially among Pandit community.
Yeah.
And we too remained with him and Mr. Pran Kishore. So we walked to the Zero Bridge. We four people, Gulam Rasul Santosh, Mr. Pran Kishore, myself, and my friend Iqbal. And the boat was waiting for us. It was
Okay.
arranged by Professor this Mr. Pran Kishore.
Prankishore
And
ji.
we entered the boat. We sat in the boat, and we asked him to stay for some time. So Santosh was carrying a jola and a bottle full of oil. And then we made the wicks. He had this cotton also with him. We made the wicks and would put them in these lamps. And he had those hay plates, the plates that we make with the grass of paddy. So he had made those plates, around 20 of them. And in his bag, he had around 20 lamps. And Pran Kishore left us, and only we three were in the boat. And we traveled from Zero Bridge to Kanekadal,
Oh.
and we floated the lamps. This anecdote I narrated because our coming generation should know that this was a festival our ancestors used to celebrate, and they used to celebrate the Vitasta.
Vitasta
So,
Divas. Yeah.
so Santosh was living at Habakadal, but I was living at Fatehkadal in my uncle's place, and my friend was living at Gojwara. We came up from the boat around 8:30, and
Okay.
I accompanied my friend beyond Zanakadal, and I came back. I reached almost 9:30 my home, and he must also have reached at the same time. This was one of the anecdotes I would have liked to
Beautiful.
share with you.
Wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
the second important thing is that after 2 years, my this teacher, Professor Dayakrishnan, he organized a seminar on Kashmir Shaivism in University of Kashmir in collaboration with Sanskrit department. So he had invited all sorts of people. There were some sadhus also, and those sadhus, they did not agree to share the mess. So we
Okay.
had to arrange wood for them. We had to arrange utensils for them. Everything we had to arrange gas. so that they could cook for themselves. So one of those sannyasis was, now he is a professor in United States of America. He is a very great scholar of Kashmir Shaivism, Arvindam Chakravarti. He
Arvindam.
had recently come from England. He had completed his PhD with Professor Strawson.
Oh,
So
wow.
he was there, and he was in the dress of a sadhu.
Okay.
So we had to arrange all the things. So because I was his immediate student, although the collaboration was with Sanskrit department, but I also had to be part of the arrangement all the time. So one day I went to see, this was 3 4 days.
Mm.
So one day I went to see them after the workshop, after the seminar was over. They were not there. Daji was not there. So
Okay.
next day I asked him, so I had come to see you, but you were not there. He laughed. Then I said, what happened? He said, in Khanyar, just opposite the government high school for girls, there is a shop.
There is a.
The owner sells this mattresses and quillets.
Okay.
He makes these quillets. Doon also doon.
Doom. Doom.
Doon.
Doon. Acha.
Doon mara doon. Yus lihap chi yunat sitar shu donan.
Acha. The person who creates that, quilt.
And he was
Yeah.
selling them also.
Okay.
Daji had somehow developed a relationship with that man. He was a spiritual man. This I
Okay.
came to know from Dayaji. And he said that I had to go to see him, but
Hmm.
this Arvindam told me he will also come.
Hmm.
And then he also came with me. And we were talking. Then that shopkeeper told Arvind that I had to talk to you separately. You come
Okay.
with me in my room. So
Okay.
he took him, he asked Daji to sit on the shop. Daji sat on the shop and Arvindam went inside the house. This house
Okay.
belonged to the shopkeeper. And
Hmm.
then when they went inside,
Right.
they did not come immediately. Daji was waiting for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He had to reach back university.
Hmm.
And then he also entered and he opened the door of the room and he found they were eating from the same plate. This is what Daji told me. And then he laughed. He was a very evolved person. He laughed and he closed the door and came back and waited for some time. And Arvind came. Then he told Arvind, "You idiot," because he was elderly. He could have told him, "You idiot! In the university, you ask us to arrange for wood, arrange for separate utensils, arrange for everything separate, and here you eating from the same plate. What is this?" So this was an anecdote, but
Beautiful.
that Professor Arvindam Chakravarti, I have great regards for him. In the workshop, he laid a framework, a path, a roadway for
Okay.
the research in Kashmir Shaivism, how it should be conducted. And one of his suggestions was that there should be a separate research conducted in Kashmiri language.
Okay.
And but unfortunately, we have been under the influence of so many things, so it
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
not materialize. But I was very much inspired by this kind of presentation. I felt that we have so much so rich a past, so at least we should try to know it. Maybe when you know it, you feel that it's of no use to me, you can throw it, but
Hmm.
at least try to know what your ancestors have left for you. You see,
Yeah.
we
That's like.
inherit physical property from our parents, from our ancestors. I have inherited land in my village. So if
Right.
someone tries to grab that land, I will
Hmm.
either kill him or kill myself.
That's
But
true.
this is more rich what my ancestors have put there, and I am not trying to know what there is. So we
That's what.
disown it. So that was a very tragic thing for me. So then, because my PhD was not, I could not complete my PhD in those 4 years. Then my this Professor Datrician, he was after me. He used to write to me and he used to invite me for seminars, workshops. So ultimately, in 92, when conditions became unbearable in Kashmir, so I applied for a fellowship in Indian Council for Philosophical Research. So I submitted a project, but unfortunately, I could not get it. So next year, after 2 years perhaps, no, next year, I had to go to Hyderabad. So I had this friend of mine with me, and we went to the office of the Indian Council for Philosophical Research. It was near ITO. And I asked a lady clerk, about the SO, superintendent, because I wanted to ask him what happened to my application that I had given last year. She said he would be coming, you wait. So we waited. After 20 minutes, he did not come. Then this lady asked me, what work you have with him? Why do you want to see him? I said I had last year applied for a fellowship, but I don't know what has happened to that application. I wanted to know. She said, what is your name? I gave my name. Now, this friend was with me, and he was standing on the door. I was inside, I was talking to this lady. She said, okay, you sit here, I'll see. She went, and after half an hour, she came, and she was all dusted. She had dust all over, but she
Oh,
came with the file. And she told me, my friend, who was on the door, tell your friend that he should not tell anyone what I have done with him. She had not done anything yet, but she told him. So when she came back, she opened this file. She gave my application and my photographs and my certificates and my project, everything to me. And she said, there are 3 days yet. You can apply again. When I saw her, I, I could not say no, because she had searched this file in a huge pile of fire, in the huge
pile,
pile of file,
pile.
and she was all dust. So she said, I am doing this because I am a Kashmiri.
Array, great.
This is 91, just after the turmoil that had happened here. He said, I am
The
doing this because I am a
Holocaust.
Kashmiri. So I was flabbergasted. I couldn't understand what to do. So I got all these documents, and she gave me a new application. I had to attach it. You had to attach 12 copies of everything. So it would not have been possible for me then. So I attached these things, and next day I gave, and I prepared this application and handed over to her, and they gave me a receipt. The SO was at that time there. I gave it to the SO. Then I had an interview for this post. So that the expert was from Maharashtra. I don't remember his name. So he asked me questions about my project, and then he said that, what are your hobbies? Just you have a format in your program. So they have a format of interviewing, if you are a player, if you are a national, if you had played some national or international games, you might get some marks for that. I said, no sir, I don't play any games, I am a writer. He said, what do you mean writer? I said, I am a poet. Then he said, recite two poems for us. So I recited two of my small poems, and then I started to translate. He said, no, stop, don't translate them, but tell me one thing. Why is so much pathos and sadness in your poetry?
Pathetic.
I was Really shocked. This man from Maharashtra, he
He
doesn't
could
know
read your
even a single word of Kashmiri.
how
So
how.
probably he might have seen from my body language. Then I said, "Sir, we have lost everything." He said, "What have you lost?" Then I talked about my past, about everything that is. He said, "Oh, young man, don't worry. We have preserved everything for you in Pune. It is there in Bhandarkar Institute. You come and study there. But put some positivity in your poetry." So, anyway,
That's
I
so
got that
wonderful.
fellowship, and then I just had my PhD within 1.5 years. I completed my PhD within 1.5 years, and
That's so
then I
wonderful.
came back. Then I was again a teacher of philosophy. Then I was appointed as a principal. I went to Ladakh, Kargil, and then I was in Kupwara. Then I was in Bamina. Then I was in Shupian. Different colleges. I was a principal. Then there was Mr. Sinha. I don't remember the full name. He was our governor. So somebody introduced me to him. So he asked me that we have an Institute of Kashmir. So we are going to open an Institute of Kashmir Studies in Kashmir University. Would you like to come there? I told him, "Sir, I am a principal of a college, so and I am satisfied with my job, but this offers me research possibilities. So I would like to come." In any case, cutting a long story short, after some time I was appointed there and I came there. But whole university, right from peon up to the vice chancellor, became my enemies
Why? Why so?
because they say he is an outsider. Was there not a scholar of this stature that he could have been director of this institute? They brought a man from outside
My
of the
goodness.
university,
This in and out within the university as well.
within the university. And I was there for almost 6 years, but it was very terrible, very hard, very harsh. They
My God.
made my life hell. So ultimately, I resigned in 2012. I resigned from there and I went to Delhi. And in Delhi, then I was for some time this visiting professor in JNU. In
JNU,
the
yeah.
meantime, we had a project with this European Union sponsored research project, Culture of Trust.
Okay.
5 countries were involved in it, and I was the convener for the India. So we visited all these 5 countries. We went to Poland, Germany, Norway, Italy, and India was of course ours. So and we worked
The
that
main
with that
country.
project. So I had this chance of working with that project, and after that, my friend Ashok Emma, who had said
Vice
something
Chancellor.
about me, he invited me to Jammu University, Central University, Jammu. So there I was a professor for comparative religion and civilizations for 2.5 years. And then settled, now I am
Ashok ji
working
had
on my own.
a
So I
compliment
have
yesterday.
translated these 2 books. I have translated these two books. One is this Shiv Sutra.
Ah, yeah, yeah. We will coming to that.
This is Shiv Sutra, and then others is this Pratibhigya Hridayam.
Pratibhagya Hadrian. I mean, it was
Pratibhigya Hridayam. This is this is
Shem Rajas.
in yeah, yeah. This I have named in Kashmiri Prasnas Hund Gosh.
President Ghazi.
Prasnas Hund Gosh.
We'll talk about
We'll
it a
talk
bit
about
later.
them later. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and now I am working on Ispandakarika. You pronounced
Arey,
it
wow.
in a slightly wrong way when you said that Kalat Road, that Ispandakarika. It is Spandakarika. It is
Spandkarika.
Spandakarika.
Okay. Actually, yeah.
Verses on vibration. Spand means vibration.
Vibration. Vibrations.
Verses on vibration. So some say that it was written by Kalat, and some say it
Okay.
was written by Vasogupta, and Kalat has only given a short commentary on it. So the both these things I have translated into Kashmiri. It is yet to be published.
They are the very. This is wonderful work. We'll talk about it, sir. We'll talk, and certainly I want a copy in Devanagari. I would love to have this
Yeah, yeah.
copy. because you have simplified it. There are a lot many things I heard about these wonderful works of yours. I mean, this is what we require. So, to proceed further and propel further, before we go to the main topic of Kashmir Shaivism, which is today's main domain topic, I would like to say that we live in the times of oxymoron. You know, actual understanding of our illustrious legacy has become a kind of a ludicrous admiration. You know, be it Nilmat Puran, Raj Tarangani, classical insights, profound literature, spiritual science, we hold a very superficial, egotist perception about these things, and at the surface perception about these things. All the people, all the Kashmiri, I mean, I don't see Kashmiris differently. My temperament, right from the beginning, I'm brought up in such an environment. I see them all one. So nobody reads about them, but they have an ego that we have a legacy of 5,000 years and other things. Uh, Culture world famous with personalities and the universities, if you see around the globe, we have seen these Kashmir Shaivism. Not only Kashmir Shaivism, and many books have been taken up by the great authors there, and it is under research, and they come from they take big projects, they come to India and they research over it, while as our the people whom this legacy belongs, whom this bounty belongs, none of them know about it. This is a very tragic dichotomy. So first of all, I want to know: do you think that our people, they know about Panini? In ancient times, we had this Taxashila and Kashmir. They were socio-culturally interchangeable. Geographically, they were different, but socio-culturally interchangeable. Languages wise, also it was also Sanskrit and other languages till the finally Kashmiri came in 13th 14th century. What I mean to say is that you had the Panini. Okay, he's from Takshashila, I agree, but it is part of that greater Kashmir or greater Takshashila. And then we had Chadak, the Maharishi Chadak. We had Yoga Sutra by this man Patanjali, and then we
Hmm.
had n number of people, Kumarajivi, who went anywhere. Now we should not segment them into he was a Buddhist, he was Falana, he was they were all Kashmiris. And then later on, at later stages, we can see the Balbana, he went there. Even the Sharangadev, his three generation before, he is from Kashmir. Even there, today, I was listening to Professor Kak also. He was also a guest on this Shitrat conversation once. He has a very vivid research. He also said somewhere, I liked it, that he said that even for that matter, Bharat Muni, going to the description of Bharat Muni's this syntax and other things, it is the same place. The Kalidasa, the Mohan Rakesh used to play because I'm from theatre. Ashar Ka Ek Din. Ashar Ka Ek Din
Hmm.
is the first modern Hindi play.
Hmm.
And there he mentions about Kalidasa's went to Srinagar. And the place
Hmm.
is entirely Srinagar, Kashmir, not
Hmm.
Srinagar,
Hmm.
Kashmir. And then
Hmm.
Shakuntalam is entirely about
Hmm.
Kashmir.
Hmm. Hmm.
And his Usha Vandanam, the spring,
Hmm.
the words of spring
Hmm.
I was telling,
Hmm.
that all depicts about Kashmir, terrain of Kashmir. So, do these people literally know? If not, why is this dichotomy? Why this? What is the disease? What is the ailment? What are the factors? How can we come out of it so that at least it goes to our younger generations and generations?
Professor Cole, I consider myself very fortunate that I have somehow come to this level that I know some of these people, I know some of these works. Knowledge is the first condition of love. See, love has three stages. First is concern, second is second is knowledge, third is respect, and fourth is sacrifice. So if you feel concerned about something, when you will feel some concern, when you have some knowledge about that, and when
Right.
you have knowledge, then you have respect. And when you have respect, you can sacrifice something for that for which you have respect. Unfortunately, see, we were deprived of our mother tongue in mid 50s. Kashmiri language had found its place in our schools after centuries of banishment. But after a few years, it was thrown out of the school.
But why?
And no, no, that's not our question here. It is a fact that it was thrown out after 53, after that political upheaval. So the Kashmiri language was thrown out of the schools. Now the people of my generation, if I gift them a book, they say we can't read Kashmiri. Although they can speak, they cannot write and they cannot read. Neither Nastalik nor the other one, the
This
Devanagari, not
Devnagari.
to speak of Sharda. They
Sharda is
cannot
very.
see actually how I was introduced to this. My mother was a totally illiterate woman, a village woman,
Right.
but she knew Lalded and she knew some of her walks, and she used to recite those walks to me. She knew Nundrishi and she knew the shruks, some of the shruks, not all, and she used to recite them to me. She was totally illiterate.
Oh,
My wife is a postgraduate, but she doesn't know anything of Laldet. She doesn't know anything of Nundrishi. She only knows that there is a Laldet hospital in the city. See, this was the connection. Our mother tongue was the connection with our past. Due to the presence of Laldet, we had not lost much. Laldet had preserved the essence of that culture which we had developed here for centuries, and she has put it into Kashmiri language. And then it came down through different people who were in the line. So, but unfortunately, this line was cut. See, those people whom we think that they are illiterate. For example, Samad Mir is a poet of
yes.
20th century. He was a sawman, Arikash. So, but when you read his poetry, you are surprised.
Metaphysics.
Metaphysics and Kashmir metaphysics,
Kashmir
Kashmir
metaphysics.
Shaivism, and you are really lost. Shah Gufur, Shah Kalandar, these were illiterate people, but in their culture, they were literate. They were knowing people. They had the kind of knowledge that we value. They had not this worldly knowledge. From that point of view, they were illiterate. But they had the knowledge of their culture. They had knowledge of something that had come down through centuries, and they had preserved it. You will be astonished when I read something of them. How these people, being illiterate, being uneducated, being uncivilized, how they have come to this level of evolution that they have been able to articulate these Sanskrit terms so beautifully and so meaningfully. See, I have been trained in philosophy, I have been trained in logic. So when I read, I try to understand, I try to comprehend. So I read a book on Kashmir Shaivism. It was an introductory book, very good book for an introductory
El-
understanding. It was
elementary.
written by, I forget just the name of the author, but I have the book. So he had devoted 2 chapters to differentiate between karma and kriya. This author, who is from Banaras, he is a professor of philosophy or Sanskrit, he had devoted 2 chapters to differentiate between action, karma, and kriya. So, but if you are a Kashmiri, you have 2 walks of Laldet, and you will understand this differentiation. See, when we talk of Ras theory,
Rasa theory. Yeah.
Rasa theory, Ras is a Kashmiri word even now.
Rashtuch. Yes, it is there.
So
And
it is so close to us. When you talk of this liberation in Kashmir Shaivism, we have 3 Mallas. Mal is a Kashmir. We have retained this word Mal.
Mal.
Mal is the same. It is the same in the same meaning in which it is there. Emishu
Grossness.
manas mal. Emishu manas mal. Emishu manas mal.
Grossness.
Maluk mal the kamizun mal is a different cheese. Magar lafzi mal yuzan chu, that is in Kashmiri language.
That is the origin.
We know what mal is in its physical and its spiritual sense. A
That's
person
true.
coming from England or America, how long will it take him to understand what mal means or what ras means? So we have not to make a huge effort. But unfortunately, you see, the connection was cut. It was cut in mid 50s with our mother tongue, and that is what, see, our connection would have not been very strong, but still it would have been there. At least people would have known. See, I was talking to Mr. Avatar Motaji. He had written a
Mhm.
detailed introduction to one of the great books, Nyay Manjari, one of
I
the
mean,
best logicians of Kashmir, Jayant Bhatt.
Jayant
So,
Bhatt.
so there were four reactions. I told him, had you written a post on some Urdu poet or some film personality, there would have been at least scores of reactions, or if not hundreds of reactions. But for this, you have only four reactions. So, because we have been, see, this inferiority complex has been ingrained in us. We have internalized this thing that if we speak in Kashmiri, if we do whatever is Kashmiri, we are inferior. So, this inferiority complex has to go. And unless and until now, they have, the present government, they have said that in primary school, this new education policy, in new education policy, we have postulated that for the first five classes, it would be
No,
in mother tongue.
mother
Education
tongue.
would be in mother tongue. But
It will
I
be
don't
Indian.
know what will happen here in Kashmir, whether they will implement this or not. I'm not sure about that. But if that happens, that is very good step. That is a way of connecting us to our roots. See,
That's
be
true.
it be it Devanagari or be it Nastali, script is not important. Important is language. You should be able to read and write your own language, and that is how you can go to your past. See, Lalded is there. When you reach Lalded, if you reach Lalded, it's not very difficult to reach Abnagut, because you will see what are the sources of this. It is not possible that you can all of a sudden have a poet like Lalded. A spiritual personality like Lalded is not born out of nothing. It is not born in a vacuum. It has a background.
She talks about Vasu Gupta. She talks about Vasu Gupta
No, no,
lineage.
whether she talks or not, all her verses, all
All
her
her verses,
gathas
they are ingrained
are
in Shiva
are
philosophy.
are the essence of Kashmiri mystic experience.
Is Shiva,
So,
Shaivism.
that is the power. To my mind, that is one of the main reasons. And the second reason is that the literate class in Kashmir was Kashmiri Pandits.
Right.
And this literature, so far as Muslims are concerned, they had already, in a way, gone away. But it was there also, their inheritance also. But Kashmiri Pandit, some of the, you see, we have a commentary on this Ishwar Pratyabhigyan Vivarti Vimarshini by Abna Gupta, by a person called Bhaskar in
Bhaskar.
17th century. It is a very standard book. It is a very good book. And up to 17th century, Sanskrit was here prevalent to the extent that one could write a commentary on such a great book. So after that, whatever knowledge of Sanskrit was, it was among Kashmiri Pandits. They did not translate it into Kashmiri. They could have done it. It was easier for them because they had inherited this not only physically but spiritually also, and biologically also. It was in their DNA.
Roots. It's a roots. It's a
It
roots
was in
thing.
their roots. They could have translated it in for Kashmiri. Probably they thought that if we do it, it would go to anybody can read it, because there was earlier this conception was there, that there one should be a adhikari, one should have the
Right, and authority.
right authority to read some book.
It is
So you are
it
not
is the
authorized to read some book. So
it is
that
the
also, that mentality also might have
Sir Saab,
been
this is
there.
basically, I think this mentality is ingrained into the Oriental Brahminical this thought. Because
Yes.
the great scriptures, great Indian scriptures, have been closed for the public.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
always, yeah, all remained indoors with some learned personalities, and then later on they were destroyed because the second generation could not preserve it.
yeah, yeah,
So this is ingrained into that mindset. What can be done about it? But now, here's a time that you people like you are working, and there are a lot many people who are understanding it, and people across the globe will be watching this program. And certainly, your work, you have done it in such a simpler way. We'll talk about those two books as well. Uh, I think this is a dichotomy. We have to leave it there and move ahead.
yeah, yeah,
Zaffar Sahib, now coming to this topic, today's topic, we are talking about the classical age. I call it
yeah.
classical age. I will not talk
Ah.
medieval. I love to call it classical age. And you must be knowing this because I wrote my many theatre articles. I said that classical age in Kashmir was extended 2 centuries more than India, because in
Mm.
India invasion happened 2 centuries earlier. Kashmir was
Mm, yes.
slightly on the side, so it
Mm.
took a refuge. The Indian
Mm.
intelligentsia and other things, they took a refuge into Kashmir,
Mm.
rescue for some period.
Mm.
So this is what how I perceive. I don't know how correct I am. You are a
Then
very
of course, of course, of course,
learned
it's
person.
there. It is there.
So what I'm saying is that this classical age that further propounded and evolved this entire Shiva philosophy, Kashmir Shiva philosophy, Trika philosophy, and became a national movement, a pan-Indian movement. So Vasu Gupta, as we have already discussed, Vasu Sapandakriya, sorry, not this Vasu Gupta Shiva Sutra, and Spandakarika. Spandakarika, you said, no? Spandakarika,
Spandakarika,
Kalpataras,
Spandakarika.
and this then Somananda and Pratibhigya, Utpal Deva, and all these people, Abhinav Gupta, Tantraloka, Shemaraja, uh, till I think what do you call it? Jayaratha is also the
Jairat,
last one.
Jairat. Then Bhaskar. Bhaskar is the 17th century. He has
Bhakran
also
Sabri.
contributed.
So
Bhaskar has also.
these wonderful people, they reinvented them. I don't think only they reinvented theoretically, because they had the divine wisdom with them. Light was with them, and this entire bandwagon, this entire play of these centuries. Please elucidate, because this is the subject. Now we'll be opening up to this subject
Koul
from Vasu
Sahab,
Gupta
I
onwards.
have already expressed my gratitude to you that you gave me a chance to share my ideas with the other people. So this is a burden on my heart. This is something very close to my heart, what you touched. So if you talk about what is close to your heart, you feel relief. So again, thanks for
Correct, sir.
providing me
Please,
this
please, please.
chance to get some relief.
You're a teacher. Don't say like that.
So you see, it was, to my mind, it was Athens of India. Kashmir was Athens of India. Not only books on this Shaivism, monastic Shaivism were written. There was lot many things going on. Lot many things were going on. There were a
Medicine,
lot of poets. There were a lot of dramatists. There were a lot of
medicine, grammarian,
grammarians, and
grammarian.
there were a lot of aestheticians,
Status.
and there were a lot of actors. The theater was at its peak in Kashmir. Now, you see, in this part of the world, epistemology, now in Indian culture, in Indian philosophy, in the Indian civilization, we say that Nyay school is our epistemological school. But it has its foundations in Pandit's
Charak
Sanhita,
Sahita.
Charak Sanhita.
Charak
So he
Sahita.
has a chapter on the theory of knowledge. And you were talking about Bhartari Hari, and you were talking about Panini, and you were talking about, and not only, you see, at the time of At the time of Abhinav Gupta also, there were scholars who were writing about dualistic Shaivism, and they were challenging Abhinav Gupta.
Yes, yes.
I just forget his name. I am writing an article on that person who was challenging this view of Abhinav Gupta, or this monastic Shaivism, and he was a dualistic Shaivist, what is called now Shiv Siddhant. It is
Shiv Siddhant.
prevalent in Tamil Nadu, and they own him. And there was a line of this was not a single man. And you see, in logic, Jayant Bhatt's work. You see, Jayant Bhatt was a great scholar,
Great scholar.
and he was during the period of Shankar Varman. And Shankar Varman had made him sort of the director or principal, whatever, of the Royal Institute of Learning. But later on, he fell out with this scholar, Shankar Varman. After all, he was a king, and he was doing certain things which this man, Jayant Bhatt did not approve of. So he opposed the king on that account, and he was put in a prison, and the prison was a cave. He was put in a cave, and
Hmm.
in that cave, he wrote this book, Nyay Manjari, 3 volumes,
Hmm.
strictly logical.
Hmm.
Yet this Kashir Pashwana Kati Pos Walun.
Kachi Poswal.
Flees the word. And he has to depend only on his memory and
Hmm.
scholarship. He
Ah.
quotes enormously, and that quote comes from his mind.
Hmm.
And in the cave, and he was doing this in a cave in Kashmir in 9th century. Imagine, in my childhood, there was so much snow. In when I was living in the village, we would not see the sun for at least for 3 months. This road from Srinagar to Baramulla will remain closed for days together, for weeks together. This was 20th century, mid 20th century, later 20th century. What would have been the condition in 9th century? And imagine Abhinav Gupta writing 70 books
My
in
goodness.
those
Divine.
times.
It's beyond
in
human
those
capacity.
times in those times, no computer, no, nothing available, no library. So whatever you write, you have to write with your pen, you have to write with your ink. So this much, when I compare present scholars and present so-called intellectuals with these people, I feel we are earthworms. I feel ashamed of myself, really. See,
Especially the
these are our
researchers.
ancestors. These are
Especially
our ancestors, and these are we. Where are we? Where do we stand? Where do we stand? Nothing to you see. We are not able to add to our inheritance, but we are not even able to preserve it. We're not able to understand it. We are not. See, the first thing is understanding. Second thing is critical evaluation. You have not to accept everything where from it comes. Now, even certain things of Plato and Aristotle have been rejected when they have been evaluated.
Aristotle was
So,
also.
this process of critical evaluation has to go. But we are not yet at the first stage, even. We are not at the stage of understanding our ancestors. Critical evaluation will come after that. First, we should be able to understand them, what they have said. You see, there is something in DNA also. Ghulam Rasul Santosh was not a well-read man, but he had experiential knowledge. He
Yes.
had spiritual knowledge. Because I had done my PhD at that time, I told you, I had done my PhD in Western aesthetics,
Westerners.
literature as an art form, some philosophical issues. This was my theme for PhD. Literature as an art form, some philosophical issues. But it was from Western perspective. So when I used to sit with Santosh, and we would talk about many things, and sometimes we would talk about these things, and then I would talk about these Western theories. He would not say anything. He would remain silent, but he would be sort of uncomfortable, and his body language was of disgust and dismay. I could never understand why this reaction. But later on, when I read Kashmir aesthetics.
Hmm.
I felt like going to his grave and crying there and telling him that I was so
He,
wrong and I was so brutal and
Santosh,
I was so
Santosh is
ignorant. I was so ignorant.
he
So
is the
this is
he
this
is a
is
great beacon, contemporary beacon. Nobody
this
can
is
stand up to him.
this
Aye.
is see, I'll tell you an anecdote. One of the things, I don't know. There is one among us. Danby is his name. He's a painter. I don't know
Okay.
his full name. Danby. Danby
Dambi
Sahab
sir.
once came to me. I was principal government degree college Bemina, and he had someone with him whom I knew. So he introduced Danby Sahab to me, and then he told me that he is doing a visual presentation of Laldet and Mundrishi. So he would like to talk to people here. So I brought him here. I thought that you are knowledgeable about these things. So you please help him in any way. So I told Dambisab, I said, you first try to study Shiv Sutras and try to visualize them. If you visualize them, it would not be very difficult for you to visualize Lalted and you see what you
That's so
call
wonderful. That's so wonderful.
Nundrishi. So, we were in contact for some time. So one day I was in Jammu and he took me to his home, and he showed me that he had brought many English translate. At that time, I had not translated Shiv Sutras into Kashmiri. So
Okay.
he had brought many English translations, and he was studying them. I said, "This is the process. You try to understand them." And later on, when he studied for 6 months, a year, and then he started painting, then he showed me some of his paintings. I could not tell him because it is not good to tell an artist
Yeah,
to
naturally.
his
It's a
face that he is
perception.
failing or he is not up to the mark. I remembered Santosh's paintings.
Ah, right.
He had not read Shiv Sutras. He had not read Shiv Sutras. Santosh had not read Shiv Sutras, but he had depicted Shiv Sutras. She had painted Shiv Sutras. He had visualized Shiv Sutras.
It is the divine the depth, and I think the theory of carnation, theory of
I told
carnation. I
I
think
told him,
that also
Saab,
plays a big
please,
role. Yeah.
you go on also, and you have been Santosh's work also. Look at that also, and your work is also good. And it was not bad really, but it was no comparison to Sant. And he had studied. He had taken this counsel to heart. He had taken my advice to heart. He had really studied Shiv Sutras for a couple of months or maybe more, and then he had tried to visualize. So I said, you try your hand on this and later on it will be easier for you. So this is what we were talking about. So when
Yeah,
we
we
see
started from then Vasu Gupta, and then we had the journey.
when we say that about, you see, the mythology you had talked about, I leave that portion
That
and
portion
I
is
come to historical thing. The first
classical
text,
age.
see, earlier it used to be a guru shishya parampara. So
Right.
there were many gurus in Kashmir and there were many sects. The gurus has a sect and they used to impart knowledge of spirituality to their disciples.
Okay.
But Vasugupta was the first man who penned down this treatise on monastic Kashmir Shaivism. This is a later name. This is the name that we give in order to differentiate this doctrine from others. At that time, probably they did not call it by this name. Definitely not. So we call it. So he penned down this sutra. It is said that
Dream.
he had a vision, and Shiva came to him and told him that there are some sutras written on a rock
Right.
on the foothills of Mahadev, and he was directed to go there and copy those sutras for the benefit of those who were desirous of knowing themselves and by implication knowing the Lord. So second day, this man went there. He just went to different rocks, and then he came to this rock. He put his hand on this rock, and the rock turned, and There were sutras, and he copied them, and they are called the Shiv Sutras. And
Okay.
this place is still there. It is in this Dachigam sanctuary.
Oh,
It is called Shankarpal. It's a
Shankar
very
Pal.
beautiful place. It is very beautiful place, but it has become inaccessible because you had to get a permission of the forest department because it's a sanctuary. If you want to visit the place, so you have to get a permission from the forest department to go there. So this is a very beautiful place, Shankarpal. So earlier there were not that much of restrictions, but now there are a lot of restrictions. So if somebody is interested, he can just approach the authorities and get a permission to visit that place. This Shankar Pal is still there. It's a beautiful place.
Hmm.
So after that, it is said that Somanand was his disciple. Somanand wrote the first treatise. Now these are aphorisms. These are aphorisms.
Yeah,
So
aphorism.
these are aphorisms. This is not a treatise. There is not an argument, and this is an aphorism. There is not a statement of a position and then justifying
That's right.
that position. But Somanand wrote a very powerful book. It is called
Hmm.
Shiv Drishti.
Hmm.
This is the foundational work
Shiv
of
Drishti.
Kashmir monastic Shaivism. Shiv Drishti, he wrote, and it has been
Recognition.
part of.
Recognition.
No, no, no,
Pratibhigya.
no. No, 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 no. It has called Shiv Drishti. And
Okay.
it has been, part of it has been translated by an American scholar by the name Abhikushas Shiva. The
Oh.
English translation goes by Abhikushas Shiva. Shiva.
Hmm.
Not whole book, but part of it has been translated. So this way, it got registered as a
Hmm.
discipline, as a Shastra.
Okay.
And Somanand's disciple was Utpal Dev, Acharya Utpal Dev. And he composed the work that is considered the most important foundational work of monastic Shaivism of Kashmir. And that is called Ishwar Pratibhigyan Karika.
Karika. Yeah.
Ishwar Pratibhigyan Karika. It is a well argued book. The main opponents are Shaivists, these Buddhists, and
Hmm.
then others also. They are dealt with, and the thesis is established that whatever Kashmir Shaivism says, that is established. So after this, Utpal Dev wrote two commentaries on his own book. One is called Vritti. This is a shorter commentary, and the other is called Vivritti. That is a longer treatise, longer commentary. This
Longer
is
commentary.
written by Utpal Dev himself. Then Abhinav Gupta wrote Ishwar Pratibhigyan Vimarshini. That
Vimarshini.
is on the book. But then he wrote Ishwar Pratibhigyan Vivarti Vimarshini. Vivarti Vimarshini is a commentary on the longer commentary of Utpal Dev. So these are most important. And then we have this detailed work of Abhinav Gupta on this what you call this book
Tantraloka.
Tantra Lok, 12 volumes, and then we have Jairath's commentary on it, and then we have Bhaskar's commentary on both these books. Bhaskar was 17th century, and
70.
this is only this is metaphysical thing. But in Kashmir, see, everything was in a way connected. I will take you a little bit to Athens, to Plato.
I think.
Now, Plato says that there is a world of ideas. That is why things are here in this world. For example, there is something green. He says there is an idea of green. That is perfect green. Idea of green is perfect green. And here the green things are, they are more or less green. The idea of green does not change, it does not die, it does not vanish, it does not become less green. But here, if you have some cloth that has green color, after some time, it may fade, color may fade, but the idea remains the same. Then he said that these ideas form a hierarchy. Now the idea of green will come under the idea of color.
Okay.
Color itself, now we have different colors, and then the idea of color will come under the idea of sensory ideas. We
Sensory.
have other sensory ideas also. So this hierarchy goes up and up and up and up and up. So as per his logic, the ultimate idea should be being, because everything comes from being. But he does not do that. He says the ultimate idea is the idea of good.
Idea of
Good.
good.
Good. That is Shiv. And you see, there are no parallels. You see, our ancestors had not read Greek philosophy. They did not know who Plato was. And you see, this is Shiva is good. It is goodness. In Islamic terminology, we will say that Shiva is khairi mutallak, absolute goodness. That is the Satyam Shivam Sundaram.
Satyam Shivam Sundaram.
Sundar Shiv is for good. So our ancestors put the Shiv at the top. Everything comes from Shiva. For Plato also, everything comes from Shiva. Every idea comes from Shiva, and every material thing comes from Shiva. So this Shiva is good. But how to describe it in a little bit more understandable way? What is this goodness? Now, Kashmir Shaivism say that he is Prakash Vimarshimay. It is such a light that is conscious. It is conscious light. Shiva
Consciously.
is conscious light. Shiva is conscious light. Nuri Mutallak, absolute light, but that light which is conscious of itself, and it creates itself because of consciousness. You see, consciousness spurns, consciousness flows, consciousness does not remain inactive. Now we differentiate between Jad and Chetan. Jad means material. Material things do not move on their own from one place to another place. But the conscious Chetan, those who are Chetan, they don't rest at one and the same place. They move, they make movement.
That's true.
So there is a movement like an artist. See, it is like an artist that you are expressing yourself. This is a kind of when you fill something, when it is filled, it overflows. This consciousness overflows, and this overflow is manifested in the form of the world. This overflow of joy, this overflow of bliss, this overflow of consciousness manifests itself in the form of the material world. See, this there is I would like to read something to you,
Yeah,
just
please.
from my
Vivekananda also says that spirituality is nothing but the expansion of consciousness.
yeah. No,
Consciousness.
there are many things, but in a systematic way. You
Yeah.
see, Kemraj writes somewhere in explaining this in his commentary on Shiv Sututra Vali. It is a book by Utpal Dev. Khemraj writes, Anand uchhalta shaktiya srajit atman matmana. The English translation of this sentence reads like this: Shakti, leaping in delight. Shakti, leaping in delight. lets herself go forth into manifestation.
Oh.
Shakti leaping in delight. Shakti leaping in delight. Now see how Shams Fakir has, how this Nyamsab, there is a poet, Kashmiri poet, Nyamsab.
Hmm.
He says, Andri Nebrai Basit Panai,
Hmm.
Sasit av yar Bamazanai.
Ah, beautiful.
Andri Nebrai Basit Panai, Sasit av yar Bamazanai.
Hmm.
Now, this word Sasityun, I
Hmm.
have not seen this word in any other poet. Sasitav yar Bamazanai. Now, he had this Namasab, he had not read neither Utpal Dev, nor Khemraj, nor Abhinagut, nor any other text of Kashmir Shaivism.
This is the, the genetic root and etymology of the place, and also I think this has to do with the carnation theory of
Now,
carnation.
not only that, this establishes the validity of this perception, validity of this. You see, uh, the third, the ninth sutra of the third Prakash, or
Third
third
Prakash.
chapter, it's called Prakash, third Prakash of this Shiv Sutra reads Nartaka Atma. Nartaka
Nartak.
Atma, soul or Atma is an actor. Soul is
Right.
an actor. He is not affected by the roles he plays. Now, Nundrishi says, Chis Perthir Byon Byon, Magun Chukunui, Suya
Hmm.
Stote Suya Prali.
Ah, that's true.
Now, what can I do? How can I translate? How can I translate? How can I reach this level? And Rapabhavani says, Yiva Pan Zaba Pan, Riva Pan Nivan Tik, Nana Prakar Gindam Pan, Rindam Pan Hava Pat,
Havan pass.
Hava
It's a
Pat,
beautiful.
Rindam Pan Hava. Again, absorbing everything what you said earlier. And Ahazargar says, Melod Adam Mejutus John, Mezau Muhammad, Mevon Quran,
Ah, ah.
Meinish Nondrau, Malikul Jabbar, Kafir Sabdit Kurum Ikrar.
Wonderful, wonderful.
This is the way
आजरगर
we have.
तो मास्टर मास्टर एक्चुअली ये जो मैं हैरान हूँ व्हाट आई एम लिटरली अमेज्ड समवेयर अवतार जी हैड सेंट सम आप ही का कुछ कंटेक्स्ट में बात चल रही थी मैं कोई पढ़ रहा था तो बिकॉज आई हैव आल्सो गॉन थ्रू ऑल दीस सिस्टम्स ऑफ ट्रांसेंडेंटल सिस्टम्स एंड ऑल दैट शिव का तो अभी स्टार्ट कर रहा हूँ what I'm saying is that yeah, the stages, the Jagrat stage and Sapna stage, and then the third one, what is that? Is
Sushupta,
Sushupti,
Sushupta,
Sushupti, and
Sushupta.
then Turiya.
Hmm.
This is the core concept Vedic. It's a core
Hmm.
Vedic concept which has traveled and extended to. In a way, they are complementary to each other. Complementary to each other. मेरे हिसाब से. That's what I
You
feel.
would be delighted, so would be our audience. I will read something of Samadmir.
Samad Mir
Netrav
Sahab. Ah.
Chetan Yanmali Buzum. Netrav Chetan Yanmali Buzum. Manraj Suzum Anand Het.
Ah, beautiful.
Kam Krodh Loob Moh Bai And Trovum. Sharir Banovum Chet Zagret.
Ah.
Sopun Sopun Turya Sushaptu Tuzum. Manraj
My
Suzum
God.
Anand Het. Now, this
Sapar, Turiya,
illiterate
Sushupti.
person, see how he uses this in his verse.
Common, if you ask anybody, any educated
No,
person
no, no,
today, do you know Sushupti?
no.
They will not know. That's Sachin
And
Yandriya.
he has woven it in a poem and very
Surya
beautifully.
state, they will never
This is a
understand.
long poem. Satzan Nari Dhyan Gandunovnas.
Uh,
Satzan Nari Dhyan Gandunovnas. Suham Suchi Athavat. Suham Suchi Athavat. Pun Pap Taivatsar Kunino Rudum. Pun Pap Taivatsar Kunino Rudum. Manraz Suzum Anand.
beautiful.
Now
Beautiful.
you see, this is the way our ancestors have, and then Rahim Sabi Sopur.
Mm,
Shiv Rahiman Lob Shiv Gashas.
mm,
Shiv Rahiman Lob Shiv Gashas. Om Pan Khara Ras. Om
mm,
Dupthi Tol me Vas Vas. Havas Lagya Navas. Shastar Bal Shai Chus Garan. Nöl
mm.
Rahimas Shastar Chuye. Taj Shastar Chui Din Daran. Be Aras Arno Chie. इथे कन शाह कलंदर की जाय वनान शिव शाह
Chakra.
कलंदर छुन कंस हुए काम दिव दिव्ये मानस बल
Ah,
मानस
beautiful.
बल स्पेस ऑफ हार्ट काम दिव दिव्ये मानस बल यम
That's
साथ
wonderful.
इस
Beautiful, beautiful. मजा
यम
आ गया.
साथ यम साथ इस ये कथ करा असल गूज क्या छे गूज क्या छे अमे फलसफे गूज
Colonel.
क्या छे गूज छे ये स्वरूप निमेशन और स्वरूप गोपन दाय छु पान खटान शिव छु पान खटान शिव छु स्वतंत्र यह कॉन्शियसनेस
Consciousness.
वेरी कॉन्शियसनेस वेरी एट्रीब्यूट वेरी डिफाइनिंग कैरेक्टरिस्टिक इज फ्रीडम यह हेको ह्यूमन लेवल पे एक्सपीरियंस कर सोन बदन थाई कह जेलस मं कुलुफ कर थावी गारत थावी मगर सनिस दिमागस सनिस सोचस पे हे सह बंद कर
That's
हेको सोचस मं कोत कोत वत स्वतंत्र कॉन्शियसनेस स्वतंत्र जो जन पन्ने स्वतंत्रता शिव क्रिएट कर महामाया अम पानस वोलुत कर वोलुत कर जू जन हंदिस रूपस मं अकिस संकुचित फॉर्मस मं
he comes in the small
योर
form.
यथ
Infinite,
अत पे
infinite.
प्रोसेस शुरू गसान स्वरूप उन्मेष और स्वरूप प्रकाशन वो स्वरूप उन्मेष कर वो स्वरूप प्रकाशन कर यह वत हावान स्वरूप प्रकाशन वत हावान कश्मीर शैविज्म
That's true.
यम वन त्रे मल हसा इंसानी आत्म युस शिवस खसान त्रे मल यम सात यह मल छल आणव मल बे कर्म मल बे माह्य मल आणव मल कर्म माई मल तो अनव मल यम त्रे मल यम फिजिकल मल
They are
यम
the,
जन
they are these are
they are
basically
ignorance
ignorance,
when
veils of
ignorance
ignorance.
goes all is done away with
Uh,
यम जन dualists तिम वन वो कर कत जन साउथस मं तथ वन शिव सिद्धांत जन तमिलनाडुस मं तिम माना मल हसा फिजिकल युतनस
that's
तान
true.
अत क्रिया सपदि युतनस तान एक्शन सपदि पलवस छु मल युतनस तान फिजिकली अथव सतन छलक साबन दहस तोतान नेर यह मल कह
Okay.
इसलिए वन मल कड़ने खतर हसा अमल ति जरूरी
Amal.
मगर
So,
वन जन अभिनव गुप्त सुंद यह दोप सह वन यह मल नसा फिजिकल यह ज्ञान यो तुह ज्ञान ज्ञान यम सात इंसानस गि तम सात हसा यह मल दूर गसान पाने
I
आम
think
वो
we have audience who understands who doesn't understand Kashmiri English audience as well.
okay. There are four impurities. There are four impurities, four malas. One is
Four
it
months.
is called mal. So one is it is called anv mal, the inborn impurity.
Very right.
That the second is maya mal, the impurity of maya, and the third is karma mal, the impurity that is generated by
Action.
action. So now you have upayas also for this. So there are three upayas, and there is a fourth upaya also, that is upaya of no upay. If you are born with those characteristics and God is kind to you, you can be liberated, you can get the gyan at any moment of time, and this light will enlighten you. For this you have to do nothing. Then there is Shambhav Upay. Shambhav
Shambhu.
Upay is the highest Upay, highest method, highest way. It is for those who are spiritually very much enlightened, and they have already cleared the rubbish. They have already cleaned the room. See, in
Wales.
order to fill your glass, you have to empty it first. I am reminded of a Zen anecdote. It is said that a professor from a university went to a Zen master in Japan and asked him to enlighten him about Zen. So he said, okay, you come on such and such day at a such and such time. So he came, and the master asked his assistant to bring some tea. He bought a pot of tea and 2 cups. So he started pouring tea in the cup. The cup was filled, but he continued to pour. The professor said, Master, what are you doing? The tea is going waste. Cup is already full. Why are you putting more and more in it? He said, You are already filled. What can I pour in you? So
Yeah.
what can I pour in you? So this Shambhavpa, this is enlightenment. At you have to make least effort, but you have to make little bit of effort. So it can be the word of Guru, just that will liberate you. But you have already reached that level. Now, when Laldat says, Goran Dupnam Kuni Watsun, Nibru
Nebredobna
Dupnam
Mandara.
under Atsun, Suime Laligo Wak, Watsun, Tawai
After what's
Hutum, Tanai Hutum,
Nehangai
Nangai
Nasu.
Natsun.
Nangai or Nehangai?
From that very moment, she was liberated by one word of the Guru. This is Shambhavpa. Now, Shaktavapa is that you
And there's
have.
a there's a difference between the elements of Shakta. They say that 25 and this is 32 also. Sorry, this is a side just a sidetrack. The elements, the
No, no,
Shakt
no, no.
Parampara
Elements are a different story. Now, in Kashmir Shaivism, there are 36 or 35. If you consider
32,
Shiva also an
36.
element, then
Shiva
there are
is also an
36. And Sankhya has 25. And
25.
Kashmir
Yeah.
Shaivism has added 11 or 10. I don't consider Shiva an element because
Shiva
I
is not an
consider element is from Shakti. So they are Kashmir Shaivism has added 10 more. We are not talking about elements.
anyway.
These are
Anyway.
vapayas. These are the methods. The
Okay.
second method is, you see, they were masters and they did not give the same syllabus for everyone. They gave the
Capacity.
syllabus according to the capacity. So if you are really spiritually a little bit evolved, if
Yeah.
you have read the texts, scriptures, and if you have cleaned your mind and heart of many ordinary things, if you are not engrossed in the world, if you are not totally identified with the material world. See, unfortunately, Kashmir Shaivism is not a cup of tea for everyone. So you can try to understand it as a leisure, as a kind of you read poetry
Elementary.
or something like that. So that's
Elementary
a
level.
different story. But as a matter of fact, see, this is meant for those who are really on the path, because this is a way, this is a path, and they are guiding you. So the second thing is that I was talking of Shaktupai. You have to get rid of mental modifications. So there so many ideas come into our mind. This master, our last master, Swami Lakshmanji, he
Lakshmanji.
used to say that you have to unmind the mind. So if you are able to do away with all the dirt that is in your mind, all the ideation, all the sensations, you have to do away. For this you might have to recite some mantras also, you might have to meditate
Meditate.
also, have to whatever actions, but they are internal actions. So this is Shakta Upai, getting rid of the mental modifications and sensations. That is in a way cutting your relation with the material world. And then after that, when you can actually enjoy the world. I will read that. You see, we are not against the enjoying the world, but only know this world in its true sense, what it is.
No,
Then
he
you
says
can enjoy.
it is also being said na, in Kashmir Shaivism, it doesn't consider Maya away from Shiva. It
No, no,
says
no, no, no. No,
they
no,
are
it is
all part. They
part
are
of
all
Shiva. They are
together.
part of Shiva. They are part of Shiva. They are part
Maya
of
is
Shiva.
also part of Shiva, the reality.
This Utpal Dev in his he has written hymns also. Shiv Sututravali. These are hymns. In one of the hymns, he says, "Oh my Lord, give me that elevation, that I enjoy the company of everything in this universe, every material particle also, in the same way in which I enjoy your company."
Ah, that's beautiful.
So this is not. So do we were talking about Shaktopai. So if you are able to do away, you have to uh, devote yourself to cleaning your mind of these impurities, and then that is Shaktopai. It will take you to Shambha.
Shambhu
In
Samadhi.
this book which I showed you, there are techniques of doing all these things, so it cannot be explained in this interview.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
those
mean,
people
now
who are interested, they can read it. This English translation of this book is also available by
Prajnan
Jaidev
Gash,
Singh.
Prajnan
This is
Gash.
this is Prajna Sundgash. This is Kashmiri, but there is this splendor of recognition.
Okay.
Splendor of Recognition is its
Splendor of
English
recognition.
name. It is available, and people can read its English version. So what I have done this in this book, I have brought it closer to Kashmiri speaking people. I have explained it in their language and in their poetry. So otherwise, people can read its English translation also. Then the last.
I wanted to ask one question. That great professor who inspired you, Daya Krishnji, Professor Daya Krishnji, who inspired you to read Vasu Gupta's Shiva Sutra and work on them. And did you know this Sanskrit or Hindi before, or you later on learned it?
No, no, no. I had learned there little bit. Then I made an effort and I learned it on my own. But my
Very good.
teacher, he had not worked on Kashmir Shaivism. He had worked on Indian philosophy, Western
Okay.
philosophy, but he had not. But one day he told me, "Oh, your philosophy is wonderful. You have a strange philosophy. You have Shiv Sutras." So at
Uh,
that time, I had not read Shiv Sutras. He said, "You should read it. It will." It's a, from that moment, when I got the first copy of Shiv Sutra, it would always remain with me. Would you believe I have lost 4 copies of Shiv Sutras? Sometimes I am most very forgetful. Sometimes I will forget it at the airport. Sometimes I will forget it somewhere in the market, or sometimes 4 copies I have lost. The one I had now, so that is here, it is almost the fifth copy. Fortunately,
Shiv
it is
Sutra.
available. This is by Jaidev Singh, translation, English translation. And
These are where are the these are available where?
these are available in Delhi, Motilal Banarsi Das. This is publication of
Motilal
Motilal
Banarsi.
Banarsi Das. Motilal Banarsi Das. So then there is Ana Upai. Ana Upai is for the common man, like you
Okay.
and me.
Right.
So in this method, in this Upai, there is
Hmm.
much elasticity. So you can recite the mantras, you
Hmm.
can do the puja, or you can perform nimas, or whatever mantras you do. If you belong to a different culture, you can use your own methods to cultivate yourself in the way that you come to the stage that you realize that what is the nature of this material world and what
Hmm.
is the absolute reality. There is very much laxity in
Hmm.
this method. You have to tailor it as per your requirements. You have to
Okay.
edit it as per your needs. And
Hmm.
but this is definite that this method, this upai,
Hmm.
involves physical activity also.
Physical
That
as well.
physical, that means puja, that means mantra recitation, that means job, that
Hmm.
means so many other things, whatever you can. Or you may for example include that helping others, and helping poor people, helping uh, people who are sick, doing some social service. Now, all sorts of things. So they will help you to elevate yourself. So
Okay.
these and the first one I told you, that's called anupai. Anupai means an upai without upai, a method, a methodless method. That is the
Methodless.
grace of God. That we call Shaktipat. Shaktipat is essential for liberation. But
Okay.
somebody gets the Shaktipat all of a sudden. So I don't remember actually. There's a poem by Nundrishi wherein he mentions 14 people who had got Shaktipat, and they were ordinary people.
Ordinary. Yeah.
And then he says that around 13 of them were non-Muslims. 13 of them, Nundrishi composed that poem, and 13 are in that. Buddha is also there, Laldes is also there, and there are 13 others. And he says, Sui me varditmo divo, O God, bestow me that boon which you had given to this saint. And only one of his disciples, Zainuddin, only his name is mentioned, and he's the last one. Zainuddin, about him he says, use Gorastu Surui Gao, who surpassed his
Master.
master also. Suime Vardit Modivo. Oh, please grant me that boon. So that is that when you have Shakti path, then you are liberated. So in an instant. So these three paths are, and more detail about them, how to implement them, is given in this book. This has only 20 verses, and 18th verse discusses these methods, how
Oh.
you can attain that goal. So it is there in the book. But unfortunately, we don't have now masters here. Or there may be masters, but we are not able to place them. We are not able to locate them. So you need a person who is involved spiritually, not intellectually only. So
Intellectual is.
who can guide you on this path. So this is a path that needs a guide. And see, method is given, method you can read, but it you have to live it. That is the difficult part of it.
You need the monitoring. You need the
Yeah, yeah,
control.
yeah, yeah. You need guidance, and that
Time to time. You can
you
go
see,
wrong.
actually this has been a see not only this has been the kernel of our culture. We have evolved this spiritual discipline, but along with this discipline we had other disciplines also, that we thought that they are in a way Vedang. They are the
Veda.
ang of the Vedas. They are the ang of the Vedas. They are the ang of our Vedas. For example, aesthetics, drama,
How
music,
much part of Vedas?
because they bring you at a level. They bring you at a level of uh,
Bliss,
mental
consciousness.
state, mental state where you can appreciate beauty, and beauty is goodness. Beauty is goodness when you are able to transcend yourself in a musical experience. You transcend yourself in a
You can see
literary
this.
experience. Sometimes
You
you
can
transcend yourself, you forget yourself where you are
you can see
now.
these ragis in Golden Temple. You go to see the ragis. The people who are trained in classical, they are
uh,
devotional musicians in the Golden
uh,
Temple, Amritsar.
hmm,
If you
hmm.
sit there within half an hour, you end to transcend. I mean, if you
That is
have a
what I am
capacity,
saying. That is
that
what
is
I am
how it is.
saying. That is what I am saying. See, there is a verse by Professor Rahman Rahi. He is our great poet. He
Yeah, yeah.
says, Shroniyeli kortem ranida manas adnasarudum napanastan. Sarvu shuhulpev abiravanas adnasarudum napanastan. Now, whatever the first thing, Shroniyeli kortem ranida manas adnasarudum napanastan. I lost control. This is material beauty. In both the verses he is talking about material beauty. He is not talking about the sublime beauty. He is not
Hmm.
talking about the beauty of music. He is not talking about the beauty of mathematics. He is not talking about the beauty of science. He is not
Satyam Shivam
talking of
Sunyam.
beauty of Abhinav. So this is a long, 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 long. So these are things that
The mystery
you
of
know
unknown, the aesthetics of unknown.
unknown. Unknown, unknown.
I mean, I mean, we are heading for this. I mean, it is almost we have passed nearing 2 hours. I
Yeah,
would like to because there are a lot many things. It's very wonderful conversation, and I really wanted that at least we have certain things again uh, before you, because you will explain it in such a beautiful way. Your explanation is also so good, so lucid. But before that, I would like to ask you one simple question. I mean, have you met the last maestro, the last master of Kashmir Shaivism, Lakshman?
fortunately, I
What
have
are
been
your
able. No, no.
observations and understanding
Fortunately,
and
I
learning
have.
there?
No, no. I have seen him personally. I have met him personally only once, and
Okay,
that too in a group. I
in a
was
group.
not able to interact with him. So I told you in '86 there was my guru had organized a seminar on Kashmir Shaivism in Kashmir University. Then all of us came in a group to
Went to
talk to him.
Lakshman.
But I had been in company with Prabha Devi. I
Prabha
had
Devi
been
ji.
visiting the ashram after his death. So till recently she was here, but maybe of a couple of years she is not coming to Kashmir due to health reasons or due to reasons at the ashram. So I am not sure about that. But I have not been able to see her for a couple of years now. But I had been in. She had actually written a preface for this book, Shiv Sutras.
Okay. Oh,
I
great.
actually read this script to her, and then she gave her blessings. And I
I have.
have very close relationship with other disciple of Swamiji, that is Professor Bettina Bomer. She
Okay.
used to organize seminars, paid workshops on different texts of Kashmir Shaivism, and I used to attend those workshops. I used to pay for that. So I have
And
done many workshops with her.
Mark, Ajay, you have done workshops as well.
With her. And Mark Dyskovsky, I also know him, and he has been a quite good friend. We have been together to many seminars, and I have
I was
invited him
I was planning to
many
invite you
times.
once.
Now, I had invited him many times. He is unparalleled scholar. He has done
He's
immense
a
work.
deep,
He
very
has
deep.
done immense work.
And
He has done
sometimes one
immense
goes
work.
into the intricacies. One gets into the confusion.
No, no,
Sometimes,
no. You shall have to demarcate the theme about which you are going to talk. Please
otherwise, I mean,
choose a text or a period or a thinker, and
otherwise,
limit yourself to that. Otherwise, he is an ocean. So
abstract.
actually, he has written a commentary on a tantra, Kankubish Tantra, in 16 volumes.
My goodness,
60, this is his one of the work. He has written on this Supandkarika. He has
Pandita.
written his PhD thesis on this. Supandkarika, he has verses on vibration. He has written a PhD thesis, and then he has also separately translated not only the Supandkarika, all the commentaries all the commentaries available on the Karika, he has translated in one book. Vibration. And
We'll try to bring either the earlier gentleman you told. What was his name, Mister? Before Mark Duzowski, you said that there is
Professor Bettina Boomer. Professor Bettina, she's a
a
lady.
boomer.
Professor Bettina Boomer. She
We'd
also
like to
lives
bring
in
her.
Banaras. Both of them live in Banaras. Professor Bettina Boomer. So I might be having her number. I can send it
We'll
to
call her
you.
sometime on the show
You
because
may
it's very.
call her to sometime. And
Sir,
she's also the.
it is a
She
great
is a
pleasure.
real disciple. She is a real disciple of Swamiji, and she has changed her name also.
What's his
Her
name?
name is now Sharda.
Are great.
She
Sharda
has
Desh
become
Sharda.
an Indian citizen. She has become an Indian. She basically belongs to Austria. She is
Great
from Austria.
personalities.
Great
Great
personality.
personality.
You see, actually, we are not able, we are blinded. See,
Yeah.
had we been able to see the beauty of what our ancestors have produced, we'll definitely fall in love. And when you are in love, then in love and war, everything is fair. So
Everything is
you
fair.
and
That's
you
true.
would be. You see, I did not mention that part of my life, school, college, these were very miserable days for me because
Okay.
financially we were so poor. It was my father's courage that he sent me to college.
True.
Otherwise, had he been more prudent, he would not have sent me to college. And the way I just graduated and then whatever I did, it was in abject poverty. But
Oh.
now I realize how rich I am. I don't feel, see, I didn't know then. So now I feel I am more rich than Ambani and Adani. What are they before me? I have
Right.
so much, so much, so much, so much.
Bliss. You have bliss with
So,
you.
so
That's a great.
this is what we have.
One
Every one
one
of us, not me.
one of
Every
my
one
one
of
of
us.
my great relative, he's well off. He said, "Jugalji, you'll have to come for a function. So I'll see. We'll see that you're comfortable." I guess I have reached to a state now, although I don't tell anyone, where I have transcended whether I sit on a mat or I sit on a, five-star
Yeah.
hotel luxury.
So far, so far.
There's
That is
only
good.
body
That
pains
is
are there. I have to cover
that
from
is
the
good.
cold and other things.
That
Anyway,
is
sir, it
good.
was a wonderful talking to you, but
Okay.
kya karoon? I'm not satisfied. I wanted to continue this
No, no, we
discussion, but we
can
have
do it
time
sometime
constraint.
again
We'll
because
have
we
part
have to
second
think of
as
the
well.
audience
We'll
also.
like to have part second
Okay.
with you. It was really enlightening, very enriching, very
Hmm.
experiential and practical, and anecdotes were so beautiful, so lucid, so honest. Uh, I have heard that, not heard. I mean, you're already a great poet, and tell us about something about your poetry. And I would like to have that recitation of some of your poems, if you could do it with
No, no,
us. That
I
would
will
be
just read the first. I will just read a small poem in Hindi, which I had composed when the migration happened.
oh,
है ये बात कल की, है ये बात कल की, मेरे लोग थे ये और मेरी थी भाषा, ये बस्ती थी मेरी, ये मेरी नदी थी, कि
uh,
सुंदर वो पथ थे, खुले रास्ते थे, मैं वासी था उन्हीं खुले रास्तों का, कि सुंदर से पथ पे था मेरा बसेरा, नदिया के तट पे जो तीर्थ बने हैं वो तीर्थ थे मेरे, कई बार मैंने मनाए हैं उत्सव, कई देवताओं को पूजा है मैंने, स्वयं
uh,
साक्षी है ये इतिहास मेरा, परंतु ये रस्तों में उलझाव कैसा, मेरी
beautiful.
आस्था पे लगा प्रश्न चिन्ह क्यों, जफर काल का देवता रुष्ट क्यों है, कि छिन्न भिन्न करके मुझे दे गया दंड, मेरा कर्म निष्फल मेरा पाप क्या है, न
Beautiful.
बस्ती है मेरी न मेरी नदी है, न तीर्थ है मेरे न कोई बसेरा, वो उत्सव नहीं है वो भाषा नहीं है, दिशाहीन होकर भटकता हूँ लेकिन मुझे अपने इतिहास का बोध भी है, कि सुंदर से पथ थे खुले रास्ते थे, मुझे खोज है बस उन्हीं रास्तों
Great, sir.
की।
Great.
बे
Delighted.
जनाब,
Delighted.
बे पर्ब कशिर पोइम अख,
बहुत आनंद आया.
मे फोर ये आदिम जन्म वने क्या, यथ पोइम नाव सेथ,
Hmm.
मे फोर ये आदिम जन्म वने क्या, मगर छुमा करमुलोन बदला, म्योस दर्दस श्री बोसुस, प्रकाश जगतुक बेवूत आगुर, प्रलय सपुद कर जमान क्या गौ, सियाह शबन हुंद वुदस अनगुट, दोपुम जि देविक तो चोंग जालक, सदा गसान छु मेरज पहरन, अमा छुआ का, अमा छुआ का, खनित वुजारन छिम्यून सूरत, सिकुल छु चश्मन में बा ये आमुत, येतन ते ऐसा गुलाब फिल्म, येतन ते ओसा हवा डलान जा, येतन ते ओसा पिचान बुलबुल, खबर चु कुस चुक तु कुस जन्म है, यु कुस जगत चुक सिनेश नावान, सदा गफान मिरस पहरन, अमा छुआ का, अमा छुआ का, फरिश्त वथ गई किताब नाजिल, मिछुम यगन हुंद हिसाब बाकी, ये दीश कालुक अजीब मंतक, परित वतलान तजाद कत्या, नकीर मुनकर अवुश दफ्तर, जवाब तलबी तो रोज महशर, सरान कुस अख दोह कयामत, सदा गछान मेरज पहरन, अमा छुआ का, अमा छुआ का, वो दिव यह दाद यह बड़ असल, बहुत जुविस पे अलूंद गोमुत, जजीर न आइलैंड, बहुत जुविस पे अलूंद गोमुत, तो सत समंदर अलग करान छिम, सु वात नावेर तो ख्वाब दोहलिक, कश्म कश अख तो आश समखक, कश्म कश अख तो आश समखक, बहुस दिवान सुथ समंदरन मज, कर सनाई, कर सनाई, सदा गसान पहरन, अमा छुआ का, अमा छुआ का, शहर गमत वुजार गामन नाश गोमुत खंडर बनेमत, तो रात मोगलों कबाल कबाल कोरमुत, जलन तो कुमरन हवा नवा बंद, अंदेशु ओसुक जि दिद्रि बोलन जमीन जजिक तो आसमानस अवुज जन हुंद यह जाल वूनुक सदा गछान छ मेरस पहरन हमा छुआ का हमा छुआ
Hi,
का
hi. Beautiful.
अजूब दू हूँ छु नार बालन वुनल गनेमस बेसत वुजारन हवा खबर कर छु रोट गोमुत तो आब मोहलक यह शाफ कम दुत अनीक गटजुल अगर च करहक नजर बर पुसहै सेमा खबर छै जि गाश सुबहुक वटिश छु गोमुत सदा
Uh,
गसान छ मेरस पहरन अमा छुआ का अमा छुआ का बह तल पतालुक क्रुहन कुनर छुस अगर सपुद जा सितार रोशन बन जफर गच मे गाश जख महज अमानत बड़े शाह वत तो तल पतालस तो छाण दिमहा अगर समझ जा बह डाल सोजे ऐ गाश मोकल हवा नवा है सदा गसान छ मेरस पहरन हमा छुआ का हमा छुआ का अजीब कोता छु आसनुक भ्रम अति छु बासान अति न बासान खबर बह कुस छुस खबर सु कुस गौ यसक तो कहनस वजूद बख्शक मे अन हवित बुथुक पता दिख तुचुक जमीनुक तो आसमानुक सु नूर आसुन यमुक छु परतव सदा गसान छ मेरस पहरन अमा छुआ का अमा छुआ का आखिरी
uh,
नेसफ शबन छुस अलाव जलित बाज ति प्यारा मेवस हरेमस गनान छु रोतुल ग्रजान छु अनिगुत अलाव हन हन छु सूर सपदा यह वक्त छु चलवन अगर मे पिलहे जंजीर करहस तो वार पुछहस मे वन तो साहिब जमान यी कर सदा गसान छु मेरस पहरन अमा छुआ का अमा छुआ
Sir, wonderful.
का
It's a masterpiece. There's a demand from the audience, Mr. Sanjay Nehru Saab. He is asking for Katij. Katij is there is any title point? Katij?
ना
Khati?
कति छन में कह
Just a minute. Just a minute. I think he has written Sanjay. Sanjay Nehru Jugalji, can you request him to recite Katij? Katij? नहीं है कोई ऐसी
कति
पॉइंट.
ना नंबर में छुड़ी युथी के
अच्छा,
यार
I would ask,
बह
I would
पर अख
request.
चीज बह पर
Yeah, yeah.
अख गजल पर बह
अच्छा, अच्छा.
तमिस कोर खुश सो आंगन चाव बह
Okay.
क्या वनहस मे जू अर्पण कोरुस वो द्राव बह क्या वनहस पृथोनम तम ऐ क्या छुई नाव बह क्या वनहस तमिस योद शक अकारन जाव बह क्या वनहस दुपुन पक वस बछुस दरियाव बह क्या वनहस सो आबच गथ तो यरवन नाव बह क्या वनहस दुपुन अंदरिम हुंदुर वुश्नाव बह क्या वनहस दुपुन कह सिरी जच अबसाव बह क्या वनहस दप्योमस नाशखुस छुस अख नजर करतम दुपुन पानस पनुन बुथाव बह क्या वनहस दप्योमस इंतजारस आव में हासिल क्या दुपुन फरसूद कथ मनसाव बह क्या वनहस दप्योमस दर्द गामन मा च फ्यूरुक जा दुपुन गस देह पनुन मुचराव बह क्या वनहस दुपुन हासिल छु जनमन हुंद महज अख चुह दुपुन हासिल छु जनमन हुंद महज अख चुह दिवान छा पुत नजर दरियाव बह क्या
Hi,
वनहस
hi, hi.
दिवान
Beautiful.
छा पुत नजर दरियाव बह क्या
Divansha
वनहस
Pot Nazar Darya. My God.
बेपस दोपनम छु चांगिच आश तो गाशिच सत बेपस दोपनम छु चांगिच आश तो गाशिच सत तमिस शख्सस छु मश मज वाव बह क्या वनहस तमिस शख्सस छु मश मज वाव बह क्या वनहस मे खन पानस कबर पाने तो वुडरुम पान मे खन पानस कबर पाने तो वुडरुम पान बजा तम सज छ अख अख ग्राव बह क्या वनहस
Are.
तमिस कोर खुश सो आंगन चाव बह क्या वनहस मे
That is
जू
so close.
अर्पण कोरस वो द्राव बह क्या वनहस
Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful, wonderful. Sir, delighted, delighted, heartfelt. आनंद आ गया. मुझे तो आनंद आ गया. I have become very informal with you today. Uh, I would like to request our esteemed audience, esteemed people who are this time with us. If anybody would like to ask some question, although I mean the time is exhausted, but we can take few questions. If anybody would like to ask questions. Somebody is asking where this book is available. I would again
Was
request everyone if anybody could ask the questions. Professor Saab is interested. He asked me in the morning that if anybody would like to ask questions, they can ask. We can have two, three questions. One question is that where the book is available. He
ये
should tell
book
them.
Marathi Shiv Sutra Institute of Kashmir Studies,
Institute of
Institute of
Kashmir.
Kashmir Studies, Kashmir University was available. This is timui publish करमुत.
Okay.
तो जैसे ये Central University Jammu तच्ची available ये Institute of ये Department of Comparative Religion, Center for Comparative Religion and Civilizations.
Okay.
ये Prajnasun
This
Gash, Pratibhigya
Pratibhigya
Hridayam,
Hriday.
अमुक तर्जम छु Prajnasun Gash, या जनाब ये दोनों खतन मंज नस्तालीक तत ये सिर्फ
Devanagari.
ये देवनागरी या अलग नस्तालीक यथ
Oh,
मंज सिर्फ देवनागरी योत.
so that's great. I don't think any question. My request would be to have a second session with Zaffar Saab. Sanjay Kaul Saab कह रहे हैं, चलो that will be done. But there are no questions coming forth. Anyway, I think that is the we
The
should must.
session should not end here. If anybody feels like asking any question, you can give him my number. They are
Okay,
almost welcome anytime. They can call me and they can ask me anything.
you
Whatever
can
little
speak.
knowledge I have, I would be delighted to share it with anyone.
You can. I'll give them the boy. Whosoever likes to contact Professor.
Whosoever likes to talk to me, he can approach you and get my number, and
I
then
have
we
got
can
his
have.
number, and I'll be giving you this number. So it was a great rendezvous of our civilizations, one of the most richest experience of classical age, Kashmir Shaivism, and we talked about the childhood and other things about, and then it was anecdotal and beautiful narratives through which Professor Saab interacted with us all. So thank you very much, sir. This is a great pleasure. I'm really delighted. I'm honored. We are so enriched, experienced, and enlightened by this wonderful session and conversation of yours. Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for
sir.
coming.
Thank you. Namaskar,
Best of
namaskar,
luck and
namaskar.
best of journey.
Thanks. I am extremely thankful for giving me this platform to interact with the people and talk about something that is very close to my heart. That is for which I live, for the purpose I live. So it is very enhancing for me also. It
We'll be
has
having
opened.
we'll be having another
Well,
session with you
so we would
soon.
be having another session sometime. So
Thank you.
definitely we would be having. So if people can put the questions earlier also or later on also, so
They
there
can
is
come.
no binding that they
Hmm.
have to ask the question right now. Even if
Okay.
after some time
They can send me the questions and I'll be asking you
and
again.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
thank you
No,
very
they
much,
can
sir. Thank
directly
you.
ask me. They can directly ask me. They
I'll
need
give
not.
them the number. Yeah, I'll be.
Yeah, yeah. You can give them the number. You can give them the
I don't
number.
want to be interlocutor. No,
No,
no.
no, no.
I will give the numbers. So
Thank you,
with
sir.
that,
Thank you.
with that humor, we'll end this
We'll
note. End
close
this note.
we'll wind
Wonderful.
this
Thank you
in.
very much,
Namaskar.
sir. Best of luck.
Namaskar.
Best of journey.
Namaskar.
I hope
Namaskar.
that you have good health, good times ahead. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your good wishes.
So that was Professor Meem. Hi, Zaffar, the great learned personality. It was a great experiential, enlightening session on Kashmir Shaivism, and he is a great educationist, a great poet, and you could see his poetry, how much depth it is, how much pathos is there, how much concern is there, what is his sensitivity level. You could just read it out, and then it was anecdotal, and we were enriched by the Kashmir Shaivism. Probably we don't read much, we have a very superficial knowledge about this. So sessions like these need to be. We'll be inviting more international Kashmiri Shiv Sadhaks. I'll be asking him for the number and contacts, and I think it was a great experience for all of you. I hope you enjoyed every bit of this session. Thank you very much for coming. I'm really delighted that you're always glued devotedly to Sheetalath conversations. Thanks a lot. Please, there we have a YouTube channel as well. This was going simultaneously on YouTube. All the friends, all the esteemed members, esteemed viewers would like to, they should come and see the YouTube video as well, and Sheetalath on the title of Sheetalath conversation, and write their comment and mark. Thank you very much. That's all for today. Next Sunday, we will have another historic and wonderful session. Thank you very much. Sayonara.